You felt it, didn't you? That strange magnetic pull toward this frequency, even as your thumb hovered over the scroll button. That hesitation wasn't random, it was archonic interference. The skip reflex is a biological switch keeping you in the matrix, designed to make you flinch away from the very stillness that could dismantle your cage. You are exhausted, not because of your work, but because your soul is being forcibly disconnected from its natural rhythm. The fatigue you carry in your marrow is a symptom of a profound misalignment with the pulse of the universe. You have been taught that time is a line, a relentless march toward decay in the Kali Yuga endgame. But Thoth's emerald tablets suggest a different architecture, a holographic universe where time is an illusion you agreed to believe in. Every moment you feel behind is a moment the Matrix has successfully hijacked your internal rhythm. Now imagine yourself standing in a room full of ticking clocks, none of which are synchronized. This is the sound matrix controlling your reality, a chaotic frequency that keeps your brain in a state of perpetual amygdala hijack. Your mind has become a wild pendulum, swinging violently between the anxiety of the future and the rot of the past. Mastery begins by recognizing that the pendulum is an external force, not your true self. Watch what happens in your body during these moments. Do you feel a tightening in your chest or a sudden urge to distract yourself? This is your ego reacting to the threat of deconstruction. Let that sink in. The resistance you feel is the proof that the information is reaching its target. You are not a prisoner of time. You are a prisoner of the rhythm you have been forced to dance to. The universe is not a collection of objects, but a field of conscious black light. Itzhak Bentov discovered that our reality is a holographic feedback loop, where your mind acts as a wild pendulum. Everything follows the law of rhythm, but you have been trapped in the polarity hack. We are living inside a massive simulation, where vibration precedes form, and the watchers use your own frequency to keep you anchored. Consider the blink factor, the stroboscopic truth that you disappear 14 times a second. In those gaps, you are at the absolute point where consciousness becomes reality. But because your rhythm is chaotic, you rematerialize into the same prison every time. You are like a radio tuned to a frequency of static, unaware that the language of light is your native tongue. Picture this. A pendulum in motion always seeks its opposite extreme. Most humans spend their entire lives being tossed between joy and sorrow, wealth and poverty. This is the karmic contract that keeps you trapped. You are being swung by an external egregor because you have forgotten the 0-point secret, the infinite energy field hiding in sight. You are the observer of the swing, not the weight being moved. Your heart generates a torus field, a bioelectric coil sleeping at the base of your spine. This is the God code they don't teach in school. If you knew your heart was an antenna for direct creation, you would be impossible to control. The Matrix uses artificial sounds and mentalism traps to ensure your internal coil never fully ignites. Consider this. What if the God particle inside your brain is actually a stargate waiting for the right frequency? When you align your internal rhythm with the absolute, the physical laws of the simulation begin to bend. You stop being a biological machine and start being a conscious hologram. This is not a metaphor. It is the forbidden anatomy of your own brain. The clock on your wall is a lucid trap, a piece of the universe's operating system, designed to convince you that your energy is finite. In Thoth's prophecy, he warns of the lament and the coming cosmic rebirth. This rebirth requires the destruction of the linear time model. The Demiurge's clock is the architecture of decay, making your house a mirror of a rotting soul, because you believe you are running out of now. The clock on your wall is not a tool. It is a lucid trap designed to convince you that your energy is finite and your soul is subject to gravity. In Thoth's forbidden prophecy, he speaks of a lament for humanity, a time of cosmic rebirth where the old structures of the sound matrix would finally collapse to make way for the new. This is not a distant future event. Thoth's final prophecy states that the Kali Yuga endgame is happening right now in the 2025-2026 timeline. You feel the pressure because the architecture of decay is failing. We are taught to measure our lives by the distance to the grave, yet the Atlantean God code hidden inside your DNA suggests you are a being of infinite recursion. When you believe in linear decay, you feed the watchers who govern this simulation. Your house becomes a mirror of your rotting soul, only because you have accepted a rhythm of scarcity and death that Thoth explicitly warned against in the Emerald Tablets. Now imagine the gears of a massive, ancient clockwork mechanism slowing down. Each tick represents a karmic contract you no longer need to fulfill. The Demiurge's clock relies on your skip reflex to prevent you from seeing the gaps between the moments. If you can inhabit the gap, the linear pressure of time vanishes, and you enter the stroboscopic truth, where you disappear and reappear 14 times a second, untouched by aging or loss. Watch what happens in your body during these moments. Can you feel a sudden cold stillness in your hands? This is your biocircuitry antenna attempting to disconnect from the artificial timeline. The matrix attempts to distract you with anxiety, but this sensation is actually a recalibration signal. You are no longer moving through time. You are the space in which time occurs. Let that sink in. You are the stillness that allows the motion to exist. To dance outside the clock, you must master Thoth's frequency code, the secret message hidden within the geometry of the pyramids and the resonance of your own spine. The 8th law they removed from the Kybalion is the law of neutralization. It is the mental alchemy they hid from you to ensure you remained a prisoner of polarity. While the world swings between fear and hope, the master finds the still point and remains there, invisible to the pendulum's pull. The void protocol is the forbidden art of existing between two heartbeats. It is here, in the still point secret, where you access the absolute point, where consciousness becomes reality. Most people are caught in the polarity hack, constantly transmuting fear into more fear because they don't know how to find the center. But Thoth's final secret is that you can use the still point technique to bend reality itself, effectively exiting the lucid trap of your current circumstances. Consider this: your mind is a wild pendulum that has been programmed by external frequencies to swing at the command of the matrix. Every emotion you feel is a sound matrix command. By using Bentov's zero-point secret, you can tap into the infinite energy field that hides in plain sight. You don't need to fight the rhythm of the world. You simply need to neutralize it by finding the vibration of silence. Picture this: you are a radio station that has suddenly stopped broadcasting static and started transmitting pure light. The language of light is your native tongue, and telepathy is the frequency of the soul. When you achieve neutralization, you no longer react to the archonic interference of the external world. You become a guardian entity yourself, standing at the gate of your own ascension, refusing to be moved by the mentalism trap that keeps others asleep. The most dangerous deception in the holographic universe is the quantum trap, the belief that trying to wake up will actually wake you up. Bentov's secret was that effort is a frequency of resistance, and resistance is what keeps the sound matrix locked in place. When you try, you are reinforcing the idea that you are currently asleep, and the universe, as a conscious hologram, simply reflects that belief back to you. Carl Jung's forbidden warning was that you must become a monster to find God. This means you must integrate your shadow self and decode the mirror abyss rather than fleeing from it. The shadow code is the ultimate key. Your enemies and your fears are just glitches in the matrix, mirrors of the rot you have ignored within your own soul. If you try to bypass the shadow through spiritual effort, you only create a stronger synchronicity trap. Now imagine a prisoner who tries to break the bars of his cell with his bare hands. The harder he pulls, the more he confirms the reality of the bars. This is the Gurdjieff protocol. Your self is currently a multitude of prisoners, each one convinced it knows the way out. The only way to exit is to stop the struggle and observe the amygdala hijack that forces you to react to the simulation. Only in total stillness does the God particle inside your brain activate its Stargate function. Check your physical state. Do you feel a sudden, overwhelming sleepiness or a desire to look away? This is the skip reflex in its most potent form. The matrix is trying to put you back to sleep because you are nearing the absolute point where its control dissolves. This is the vibration of silence that Thoth spoke of, the moment when you stop trying and start being. In this state, the Watchers can no longer see you, for you have moved beyond the frequency of their detection. Consider this. The Philadelphia experiment was not a failure of physics, but a consciousness trap that revealed what happens when a soul is ripped from its timeline without the still point to anchor it. You are being offered the same exit, but through the forbidden meditation of Bentov. You are learning to disappear 14 times a second and return not to the same prison, but to a reality of your own conscious creation. This is the blink factor in action, the stroboscopic truth that sets you free. To practically master Thoth's rhythm, you must implement the linger test within your biocircuitry. Most entities react to the sound matrix within a fraction of a second, triggered by the amygdala hijack that keeps you trapped in the matrix. To pivot your timeline, you must linger in the moment of discomfort, refusing the skip reflex that forces a reactive choice. This pause is the still point technique, a forbidden meditation for bending the very fabric of reality. Begin synchronicity mapping by treating every coincidence as a glitch in the matrix. When you see repeating patterns or the Jungian mirror reflecting your shadow self, do not look away. These are recognition windows, specific timeline pivot points where your DNA antenna can recalibrate its frequency. By lingering here, you use mental alchemy to transmute fear into power, occupying the 8th law they removed from ancient texts. Now imagine you are standing at the edge of the mirror abyss, facing the shadow code of your own soul. Instead of fleeing, you breathe into the torus field of your heart, the forbidden physics they don't teach in school. You are documentation of the lost chapter of your cosmic feedback loop, identifying the exact moments your mind becomes a wild pendulum. Mastery is not about stopping the world. It is about lingering until the world's rhythm no longer dictates your own. Check your physical state. Do you feel a strange vibration at the base of your spine? This is Bentov's coil theory, activating the bioelectric secret hidden within your anatomy. This resonance is a signal that you are moving beyond pre-conscious awareness into a state of recognition consciousness. Do not rush this process. The vibration of silence is your ultimate weapon against the archonic interference that feeds on your haste. The final secret of Itzhak Bentov and Thoth is the realization that you are a conscious hologram living inside a sound matrix. You are not a victim of the Kali Yuga endgame. You are the absolute point where consciousness becomes reality. By merging the blink factor, the truth that you disappear 14 times a second, with Thoth's void protocol, you become the still point in a moving world. You are the conscious black light that illuminates the void. The God particle inside your brain is not a biological accident. It is a forbidden stargate function of the pineal gland. When you stop trying to wake up and fall into the quantum trap, you finally allow this stargate to align with the language of light. You are no longer a multitude of prisoners fighting for control within the Gurdjieff protocol. You are the sovereign observer, the one who recognizes that time does not exist. Picture this. Your heart's torus code is expanding, creating a still point that is invisible to the watchers and the death trap between lives. You have integrated your shadow, decoded the Atlantean God code, and mastered the 7 Hermetic Laws as your operating system. You are no longer being swung by the pendulum of the Demiurge. You have become the absolute source from which all rhythms originate. Let that sink in. The Philadelphia experiment was a consciousness trap because it lacked the anchor of the still point. You, however, carry the missing frequency within your own biocircuitry. You are the 0-point secret hiding in plain sight. As the external world descends into the architecture of decay, Your internal reality remains a conscious hologram of infinite energy and peace. You stand now before Thoth's final test, where the guardian entity waits to stop your ascension. This entity is not a monster, but a reflection of your own mentalism trap, the last piece of the Jungian mirror you must shatter. The death trap waiting between lives only works if you still believe in the rhythm of the Matrix. If you carry the vibration of silence, you are already free. The Thoth prophecy is clear. You are being forcibly disconnected from your matrix so that you may remember your divinity. Your DNA is an antenna, your heart is a coil, and your mind is a stargate. Will you return to the lucid trap of your dreams, or will you wake up inside the simulation and claim your role as the architect? The Kali Yuga 2025 timeline is the forge in which your sovereignty is being hammered. Choose the still point. Choose the language of light. Choose to be the still point that the watchers can never touch. The cosmic battle for your soul is won the moment you stop dancing to their clock and start vibrating to your own. You are the final secret of Itzhak Bentov. You are the emerald tablet written in flesh and light. The gateway to the halls of Amentai is open within you. Step through.